Good evening, everybody. Logan here. Let me know how you're doing in the comments. Personally, I'm hungry. Gonna eat dinner after this. But let me know how you're feeling right now. I wanted to do a Senate election update now that the dust has settled on most, but not all, Senate races. We're going to talk about the contentious races here. First, I do want to give a quick presidential update. And no, I'm not going to comment on what Trump just said to reporters just moments ago. If you want to go Google that, what Trump said to reporters about the election, you can look that up. But for now, going forward in these updates, I just want to stick to the numbers and the map and various scenarios. But let's, before we get into the Senate update, let's talk about the presidential election, just where we're at with that. All right, so I'm looking at Pennsylvania here. Trump's lead in Pennsylvania continues to decrease here. His lead is now less than 1% in Pennsylvania. And his lead is even smaller. It's shrunken even more in Georgia. Check this out. Georgia. Trump's lead is now 0.1%. Less than 4,000 votes, folks, in Trump's favor at this point in Georgia compared to Joe Biden. In terms of Nevada, Joe Biden's lead increased today from slightly under 8,000 votes previously yesterday to now just a little bit over 11,000 votes. Of course, I'll keep you updated in my presidential election update tomorrow morning. But for now, let's talk about the Senate. Remember, to control the Senate, you need 51 votes if your party doesn't control the White House. But you only need 50 votes to control the Senate if your party does control the White House, because in a split vote, the vice president, who is the president of the Senate, will give the tie-breaking vote. 35 Senate seats were up for re-election this cycle. And basically, most of those were not notable because, the incumbent was up for re-election and he or she won handily because he or she is a Republican senator in an overwhelmingly red state or a Democratic senator in an overwhelmingly blue state. An example of this is Republican Senator Cynthia Lummis's race in Wyoming. She won in a landslide, as you can see here, garnering over 73% of the vote. So I'm not going to talk about all the races because some of them are just, they were slam dunk, right? So I'm not going to talk about them. I'm going to focus on the upsets as well as the battlegrounds and nail biters, the elections that will decide who controls the United States Senate beginning in 2021, the races that are yet to be determined. So we'll talk about specific elections in a bit, but first let's back up here. Currently, the United States Senate has 53 Republicans, 45 Democrats, and 2 independents, and the Democrats caucus with the Democrats. So going forward in this video, I will refer to Senate Democrats and independents together collectively as Democrats. So using that definition, the Senate currently has 53 Republicans and 47 Democrats. I'll talk about the 4 races that are still up for grabs in a moment, but first let's talk about how the senatorial races have gone so far. 23 Republican senators were up for re-election. So let's subtract 23 from the 53 currently in office. That gives you 30 Republicans who are not up for re-election and who are going to still be senators in 2021. Now, 17 other Republican senators up for re-election have already won their race. I'm going to complete them here on the map. Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. We got Iowa, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, South Carolina, and Susan Collins up in Maine. So that bumps us to 47 Republicans. And in Alabama, a Senate seat was flipped in Republicans' favor, with Republican challenger Tommy Tuberville defeating Democratic independent Doug Jones. So that brings Republicans to 48 guaranteed Senate seats right now going into 2021. Now let's talk about Democrats. Only 12 Democrats were up for re-election. Okay, so let's subtract 12 from the current 47 Democrats who are in office. That gets you to 35 Democrats not up for re-election. Of the 12 Democrats up for re-election, 11 have already won their race. Okay, so that's Oregon, Minnesota, New Mexico, Illinois, Michigan, Virginia, Delaware, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. So that brings us to 46, right, Democrat seats after those Democrats won the re-election. Now, 2 Democrats successfully flipped Senate seats held by Republicans. Democratic challenger Mark Kelly defeated Republican incumbent Martha McSally in Arizona, and Democratic challenger and former governor of Colorado, as well as former presidential hopeful John Hickenlooper, defeated Republican incumbent Cory Gardner in Colorado. So now we're up to 48 Democratic guaranteed Senate seats in 2021 in races that have been called. Okay, so right now in terms of guaranteed Senate seats going to 2021, Democrats and Republicans are equal at 48. That leaves us 4 remaining seats that are up for grabs. 1 seat in Alaska, 1 seat in North Carolina, and 2 seats in Georgia. And Georgia is where the drama is right now. But first, let's talk about Alaska, since that's the easy one. In Alaska, Republican incumbent Dan Sullivan is defending his seat against Democratic challenger Al Gross. Now, similar to the presidential election, Alaska has not yet been called in its Senate race due to the way it counts its votes, right? It won't be counting many ballots until next week. But Alaska is a very red state, and look at this huge margin that the Republican incumbent already has. So on our map here, similar to the presidential election, let's give Alaska to Republicans. That brings us to 49 Republican Senate seats guaranteed going into 2021. Now let's talk about North Carolina. In North Carolina, Republican incumbent Tom Tillis is defending his seat from Democratic challenger Cal Cunningham. Tom Tillis is currently leading by, 1.8%. Senator Tillis has actually already declared victory. He called it a stunning victory. But as you know from my presidential election updates, North Carolina won't be giving us an update on votes until at least a week from now. I think Tillis's early victory claim was a bit bold, but just like in my presidential election updates, I would be shocked if North Carolina went blue in the Senate race. Okay, so on my map here, I'm going to give North Carolina to Republicans. Okay, so that brings Republicans to 50 guaranteed Senate seats going into 2021. This means that if Trump wins the election, Republicans will continue to control the Senate no matter what happens in these 2 Georgia races here. However, if Biden wins the presidency, the Democrats could control the Senate if they win both of these races in Georgia. So let's talk about these Georgia races now. There are 2 races for the Senate in Georgia right now. One a special election and one a normal election. I'll tell you why the special one is special in a second when I talk about it. But first, let's talk about the normal election. The Georgia normal election is between Republican incumbent David Perdue and Democratic challenger Jon Ossoff. Currently, with 98% of the votes counted, David Perdue leads Jon Ossoff by a margin of 2.1%. I doubt that Ossoff will overtake him. And get this, under Georgia law, if no candidate receives 50% of the vote, the top 2 candidates advance to a runoff election in January. It will be on January 5th. And that's exactly what looks like will happen here. As more votes are being counted in Georgia, they tend to be Democratic. And it doesn't look like David Perdue, who, while in the lead, will get back over that 50% threshold. So this race will advance to a runoff election on January 5th. Now let's talk about the Georgia special election. Why is this a special election? Well, this is because the current Georgia senator in this election, the Republican incumbent Kelly Loeffler, was not elected to her office as senator. She was appointed by Georgia Governor Brian Kemp to serve the remainder of the term of Senator Johnny Isakson, who resigned at the end of last year. So there was no primary in this race. So as a result, you have everyone and their mother running in this race. I mean, look at all these candidates here. I think there's 20 candidates in total, I believe. And obviously, no one in this race will hit 50%. The top candidate right now, Raphael Warnock, only has 32.8% of this vote. So this race as well will advance to a runoff on January 5th, putting the top candidate, Raphael Warnock, against the candidate with the second most votes, the incumbent Republican, Kelly Loeffler. So bottom line, if Trump wins re-election, Republicans, with their 50 Senate seats guaranteed right now, will control the Senate in 2021 because Mike Pence will break the tie, right? Even if Democrats win the seats in Georgia. But if Biden wins, we won't know which party will control the Senate until these Georgia elections, these runoff elections, are done. If both Democratic candidates in these elections win and Biden wins the presidency, then the Democrats will control the Senate. So at this point, for Democrats to control the Senate, they need Biden to win the presidency and they need to win both of these Georgia races. They're going to be runoff races in January. Republicans will control the Senate in 2021 if Trump wins, right? That seals it, okay? Or Republicans will also control the Senate in 2021 if Biden wins, but at least one of these Georgia special elections that will be held in January are won by a Republican. Why? Because just winning one of these would give Republicans 51 seats in the Senate, which is the majority. What's my feel here? I think that the Senate will remain Republican. Obviously, a lot can happen in terms of voter sentiment between now and January. There could be scandals, who knows? But just looking at, say, this race right now, right between David Perdue and Jon Ossoff, I have to think that more of the votes for the Libertarian candidate Shane Hazel, who will obviously not be in the special election ballot because he's not one of the top two, but I have to think that given the choice only between the Republican incumbent David Perdue and the Democratic challenger Jon Ossoff, then more of these Libertarians, if forced into that choice, if they vote at all, would vote for the Republican. That's just my sentiment. That is my guess. My guess is that the Senate will remain red, okay? Even if Biden wins, I think the Republicans will win at least one of these races down here, giving them a majority in the Senate. But like I said, a lot can happen in a couple of months, so that is a loose prediction. All right, everybody, that is my Senate election update. Thank you so much for watching. This will probably be my only Senate election update for this election anyway, unless, Cal Cunningham overtakes and upsets Tom Tillis in North Carolina, because that would be a shocker, right, when North Carolina releases more of their results next week. But apart from that happening, I think my next Senate election update will probably be in January with those Georgia special elections. I'll be doing a House election update tomorrow. Not quite as much drama there, but still a few things to talk about. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I will see you tomorrow morning in my next video, if not tonight, in the comment section below if you want to say hi. All right, bye-bye.